The summer evening air felt warm and sticky as 8-year-old William Carter sat on his front porch steps. He watched with curious eyes as a moving truck pulled into the driveway of the house next door. For 2 months, that house had been empty after old Mr. Peterson moved to Florida. Will's mother had told him a new family was coming, but he hadn't expected them today. Will's attention fixed on a small girl who stepped out of a car that parked behind the truck. She had curly brown hair tied in 2 pigtails and wore overalls. With a yellow t-shirt, she looked around at her new surroundings with wide eyes that seemed unsure and maybe a little scared. Will's mother appeared at the door behind him. "Will, why don't you go say hello to our new neighbors? I think that little girl might like a friend." Will stood up, brushing the dirt from his shorts. He wasn't usually shy, but meeting new people always made his stomach feel funny. Still, his mother had taught him to be welcoming, so he walked across the lawn to where the girl stood. "Hi," he said, stopping a few feet away. "I'm Will. I live next door." The girl looked at him, her eyes a deep brown that reminded Will of the chocolate his grandmother always gave him. "I'm Olivia," she said quietly. "Olivia Bennett. We just moved here from California." "I've lived here my whole life," Will said proudly. "I'm 8. How old are you?" "6, Olivia answered. "Almost 7. A woman who looked like an older version of Olivia stepped out of the car and smiled when she saw Will. "Well, hello there." "Are you from next door?" Will nodded. "Yes, ma'am. I'm William Carter, but everyone calls me Will. It's very nice to meet you, Will. I'm Mrs. Bennett, Olivia's mom." She turned toward the house and called out, "Greg, come meet one of our new neighbors." A tall man with kind eyes came from the moving truck. "Well, hello, young man. Making friends already, Olivia?" Olivia moved closer to Will. "This is Will. He lives next door." Will's mother had now walked over too, and soon the adults were talking about boring grown-up things like property taxes and school districts. Will turned to Olivia. "Do you want to see something cool?" he asked. Olivia nodded, her pigtails bouncing slightly. "Mom," Will called, "can I show Olivia my telescope?" His mother smiled. "That's a great idea. Just stay in the backyard, okay?" Will led Olivia to his backyard where, on the small wooden deck, his most prized possession sat covered with a cloth. With a dramatic flourish, he pulled the cloth away to reveal a telescope on a tripod. "My dad got it for me for my birthday," Will explained. "He works at the Air Force Base. He says knowing about stars is important." "It's beautiful," Olivia said, reaching out to touch it carefully. "What can you see with it?" "Everything," Will exclaimed. "The moon looks so close you can see all the craters. And Jupiter has these little dots that are actually moons. And sometimes you can even see Saturn's rings." Olivia's eyes grew wide with wonder. "Can we look now?" Will shook his head. "It's still too bright. We have to wait until it gets dark. But guess what? Tonight there's going to be a meteor shower. That means lots of shooting stars. My dad said I could stay up late to watch it." "I've never seen a shooting star," Olivia admitted. "Maybe your parents will let you stay up too," Will suggested. "You can come over and we can watch together." To Will's delight, both sets of parents agreed that watching the meteor shower would be a perfect welcome activity. As the sky darkened, Will carefully set up his telescope while Olivia sat on a blanket. His mother had spread on the grass. Will's father came out to help them get the telescope pointed in the right direction. "The meteors will be all over the sky," he explained to Olivia, "but we can look at some other things while we wait for them to start." By the time full darkness fell, Will had shown Olivia the moon, Venus, and a bright star called Vega. The moving had tired Olivia's parents, who sat in chairs on the porch talking with Will's mother while keeping an eye on the children. "Look!" Olivia suddenly cried, pointing upward. A bright streak of light shot across the sky, followed moments later by another. Soon, the night sky was filled with flashes of light that seemed to rain down toward Earth. Will and Olivia lay side by side. On the blanket, their necks craned upward. "Make a wish," Will told her. "Dad says if you wish on a shooting star, it might come true." Olivia closed her eyes tightly for a moment. "I wish for us to be friends forever," she said, then gasped. "Oh, no, I wasn't supposed to tell you." "Now," It won't come true. Will turned his head to look at her worried face. That's okay. I'll wish it too, and since I didn't tell you, both our wishes together will be strong enough. Olivia smiled at him, relieved. What do you want to be when you grow up? Will asked as another meteor streaked overhead. I don't know yet, Olivia said. Maybe a teacher like my mom? Or maybe someone who talks to animals. What about you? An astronaut, Will answered without hesitation. I want to go to space and see all the stars up close. That sounds scary, Olivia said, but her voice was filled with admiration. It's not. Scary when you know about the stars, Will assured her. They're like old friends. They watched in silence for a few minutes before Will spoke again. Olivia? Yes? I'm glad you moved next door. Me too, she whispered, a particularly bright meteor blazed across the sky, leaving a trail that seemed to linger. Both children gasped in delight. When I'm an astronaut, Will said, feeling suddenly brave, I'll take you with me to see the stars. Olivia turned to him, her face serious in the darkness. Promise? I promise, Will said solemnly. Then, with the stars falling around them and the universe seeming so vast and full of possibilities, he added, I'll marry you one day, and we'll explore the stars together. Olivia giggled. Boys don't marry their friends. They do if they make a promise under a meteor shower, Will insisted, with all the certainty of his 8 years. It's the strongest promise you can make. Olivia seemed to consider this. Okay. She finally agreed, but we have to be grown-ups first. Of course, Will said. I have to be an astronaut first anyway. From that night on, Will and Olivia were inseparable. Every day after school they played together. Will taught Olivia everything. He knew about the stars, and she told him stories she made up about the people who might live on other planets. They built a spaceship from a large cardboard box in Will's garage, complete with control panels drawn in crayon. For 4 years they grew up side by side. Olivia was there when Will won the science fair with his model of the solar system. Will was there when Olivia had to get glasses and felt embarrassed until he told her they made her look smarter. They shared secrets, dreams, and countless hours staring at the stars through Will's telescope, which he upgraded twice as his knowledge grew. Then, just after Will turned 12, his father came home with news that changed everything. He was being transferred to a base in Germany. The whole family would be moving in 2 weeks. Will's world collapsed around him. He couldn't imagine leaving Olivia behind. The news of Will's move hit both children hard. Their last 2 weeks together passed in a blur of tears and desperate attempts to enjoy every moment they had left. On their final evening together, Will's parents allowed Olivia to come over for a special stargazing night. I don't want you to go, Olivia said, her voice barely a whisper as they sat side by side on Will's back deck. His telescope was pointed at the night sky, but neither of them had looked through it yet. I don't want to go either, Will replied. At 12, he was old enough to understand that life sometimes took unexpected turns, but young enough that the pain of leaving his best friend felt unbearable. Dad says we'll be in Germany for at least 3 years. Olivia wiped a tear from her cheek. By then we'll be different people. Will shook his head firmly. No, we won't. I'll write to you every week, and my dad says we can use email sometimes too. It won't be the same, Olivia said. Will couldn't argue with that. Instead, he stood up and adjusted his telescope. Let's look at the stars one last time together. They took turns peering through the eyepiece. Will showed Olivia all their favorite celestial objects, the moon with its craters, Jupiter with its visible moons, and the beautiful rings of Saturn. When they had seen everything Will could find in the night sky, they lay back on the blanket his mother had put out for them. I have something for you, Will said suddenly, sitting up. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. I saved my allowance for 2 months to get this. Olivia sat up too and took the box. Inside was a silver necklace with a small star-shaped pendant. It's beautiful, she whispered. Look at the back, Will urged. Olivia turned the pendant over. Engraved in tiny letters were the words, To the stars and back. I have one too, Will said, pulling a similar pendant from under his shirt. His was shaped like a crescent moon. Mom helped me pick them out. This way, even when we're apart, we'll both be looking at the same sky. Olivia's eyes filled with tears again, but she smiled as Will helped her put on the necklace. I'll never take it off, she promised. Remember what I said 4 years ago? Will asked, his voice serious. Under the meteor shower? Olivia nodded. You said you'd marry me one day and we'd explore the stars together. I still mean it, Will said, with all the conviction his 12-year-old heart could muster. This isn't goodbye forever, Olivia. It's just goodbye for now. I promise I'll find you again. In the soft glow of the porch light, they made a solemn pact to reunite when they were older. Then, with innocent hearts full of both sadness and hope, they sealed their promise with a quick, gentle kiss under the watchful stars. The next morning, Will left for Germany. 15 years past, Dr. William Carter stood at the window of his office at the NASA Ames Research Center, looking out at the California sunshine. At 27, he had already accomplished more than most scientists did in a lifetime. After his family returned from Germany, Will had thrown himself into his studies, graduating high school at 16 and completing his PhD in astrophysics by 20-4. His office walls displayed his achievements, awards, certificates, and photos of him with renowned scientists. But among these professional treasures hung a simple frame containing a child's drawing of a spaceship, signed in crayon, to Will from Olivia. They had kept in touch for almost 2 years after he moved to Germany. Letters and emails flew back and forth across the ocean. But gradually, as they entered their teens and their lives grew more complex, the communication slowed and eventually stopped. By the time Will returned to the United States for college, he had lost contact with Olivia completely. He had searched for her over the years, checking social media and alumni directories, but Olivia Bennett seemed to have vanished. Still, he kept the crescent moon pendant tucked safely in his wallet, a reminder of a childhood promise, and his first friend. A knock on his office door interrupted his thoughts. Dr. Carter, his assistant poked her head in. Director Phillips wants to see you immediately. He says it's urgent. Will nodded, grabbing his tablet computer. Director Phillips rarely called emergency meetings without good reason. 10 minutes. Later, Will sat in a secure conference room with 5 other scientists and engineers. Director Phillips, a stern man in his 60s, stood at the head of the table. Thank you all for coming quickly, Phillips began. What I'm about to share is classified at the highest level. He pressed a button, and the room's windows darkened. A holographic display appeared above the table. 3 days ago, our Deep Space Monitoring Array detected this. The display showed a series of wave patterns that Will immediately recognized as non-random signals. It's coming from just beyond the orbit of Neptune and moving toward Earth. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Is it artificial? Asked one of the engineers. Phillips nodded grimly. Without doubt. We're looking at the first confirmed evidence of an advanced extraterrestrial civilization, and they're heading our way. Will's heart raced. This was the moment scientists had speculated about for centuries. First contact. And he was in the room where humanity's response would be planned. How long until they reach Earth? Will asked. At current speed, 18 months, Phillips replied. Which brings me to why you're all here. The President has authorized the formation of a specialized task force to prepare for possible contact. Each of you has been selected for your expertise. He turned to Will. Dr. Carter, your work on theoretical propulsion systems makes you our top candidate to lead development of advanced spacecraft technology. If these visitors turn out to be hostile, we need to be ready. Will nodded, his mind already racing with possibilities. Report to Hangar 18 at Edwards Air Force Base tomorrow morning. You'll meet the rest of your team there, Phillips continued. This operation has been codenamed Project Horizon. As the meeting broke up, Will felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension. His childhood dreams of exploring space were suddenly thrust into a very real and potentially dangerous context. The next morning, Will arrived at Edwards Air Force Base. After passing through multiple security checkpoints, he was escorted to a massive hangar tucked away in a remote corner of the base. Inside, dozens of scientists and military personnel bustled about, setting up equipment and workstations. A tall woman in an Air Force uniform approached him. "Dr. Carter?" "I'm Colonel." "Samantha Reeves, military liaison for Project Horizon. We're assembling in Conference Room A for introductions in 5 minutes." Will followed her through the busy hangar to a large room where about 20 people were gathering. He took a seat near the front as Colonel Reeves began introducing key team members. "Our xenolinguistics expert is arriving momentarily, Reeves." Saad, checking her tablet. Haresh is now." The door opened and a woman walked in. Will's heart stopped. She was taller now, her curly brown hair cut short in a professional style. She wore glasses with thin frames, and business attire had replaced the overalls of her childhood. But Will would have recognized her anywhere, Olivia. Bennett had just walked into the room, and around her neck, partially hidden by her blouse collar but still visible, was a small silver star-shaped pendant. Time seemed to stop as Will and Olivia locked eyes across the conference room. For a moment, everyone else faded into the background. Will felt like he was 8 years old again, standing in his backyard and pointing out constellations to the girl next door. Colonel Reeves continued speaking, unaware of the silent reunion taking place. "Dr. Olivia Bennett is one of the world's leading xenolinguists. She's developed groundbreaking theories on potential communication methods with non-human intelligences." Olivia broke their gaze first, turning to address the room with professional composure. "Thank you, Colonel. I look forward to working with everyone on this historic project." Throughout the briefing, Will struggled to focus. His mind filled with questions. Had she recognized him? Did she remember their promise? How had her life unfolded in the years since they'd lost touch? When the meeting ended, people scattered to their assigned stations. Will gathered his courage and approached Olivia as she organized her materials. "Dr. Bennett," he said formally, though the name felt strange on his tongue. This was Olivia, his Olivia, yet also a stranger now. She looked up, a careful smile on her face. "Dr. Carter." "You still wear it," Will said quietly. Nodding toward the star pendant visible at her neck, Olivia's hand moved reflexively to touch it. "And you still keep yours," she replied, gesturing to his wallet peeking from his jacket pocket, where the edge of a silver chain was visible. An awkward silence stretched between them. 15 years of separate lives creating a gap neither knew how to bridge. "Coffee?" Will finally suggested. "I think we have a lot to catch up on." Olivia nodded, relief washing over her face. "I'd like that." They found the base cafeteria mostly empty at this hour. With steaming cups before them, the story of their separate journeys began to unfold. "After you left," Olivia explained, "my parents divorced. Mom and I moved around a lot. Your letters followed for a while, but eventually they couldn't find us anymore. I tried looking for you," Will admitted, "especially after I came back to the States for college." Olivia smiled sadly. "I looked for you too. But by then I was using my stepfather's last name, Miller. I only went back to Bennett professionally a few years ago." The conversation flowed more easily as they shared the paths that had led them, both to Project Horizon. After Germany, Will's family had moved 3 more times before he graduated high school early and earned scholarships to MIT. Olivia had discovered a talent for languages during her tumultuous teenage years, finding stability in the patterns and structures of communication. Her interest in theoretical alien languages had begun as a creative outlet but evolved into serious academic pursuit. "And now here we are," Will said, "preparing for actual alien contact." "Life is strange," Olivia agreed. "When you said we'd explore the stars together someday, I never imagined it might literally come true." Will felt a warmth spread through his chest. "You remember that?" "I remember everything about those nights under the stars," Olivia said softly. "They got me through some difficult times." Before Will could respond, their communication devices buzzed simultaneously. Colonel Reeves' voice came through. "All team leaders report to command center immediately." The moment broken, they hurried back to the main building. In the command center, Director Phillips stood before a large screen displaying new data from the deep space array. The room hushed as he began to speak. "The objects have accelerated. he announced grimly. New estimated arrival, 4 months from today, murmurs spread through the assembled team. Their timeline had just been dramatically shortened. This changes everything, Phillips continued. The President has authorized full resources for Project Horizon, including immediate construction of our deep space vessel. Dr. Carter, your propulsion system designs are now top priority. Will nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. Dr. Bennett, Phillips turned to Olivia, your team needs to accelerate work on the translation matrix. If these visitors attempt communication, we need to be ready to understand them. As the meeting ended, Phillips added one final bombshell. The mission crew will be selected within 30 days. Start thinking about whether you're prepared to make that journey. The next 3 months passed in a blur of intense work. Will led a team of engineers in building the most advanced spacecraft engine ever designed, one that could match the visitors' speed. Olivia's team developed complex algorithms to decode potential alien language patterns. Despite their grueling schedules, Will and Olivia found moments to reconnect. Late-night meals in the cafeteria, brief walks around the secure perimeter of the base, small islands of calm in the storm of preparation. Their childhood bond gradually transformed into something new, a deep friendship between adults who understood each other in ways no one else could. When the crew selection was announced, neither was surprised to hear both their names called. Will would serve as navigation officer, Olivia as communications specialist. They would be part of a 12-person crew aboard the USS Horizon, humanity's first true deep space vessel. The night before launch, the crew was given one final evening to themselves. Most called family members or spent quiet time alone with their thoughts. Will found Olivia on the observation deck of the launch facility, looking up at the stars. Nervous? He asked, joining her at the railing. Terrified, she admitted with a small laugh. But excited too, you? The same, Will said. Though I keep thinking about something my dad told me before my first solo flight. He said fear just means you understand the risks but believe the mission is worth it anyway. Olivia turned to face him. In the dim light, with stars visible through the glass ceiling above them, she looked so much like the girl he had known that Will's heart ached with a sweet nostalgia. Will, she said seriously, there's something I need to ask before tomorrow. The mission protocols are strict about personal relationships among crew members. Will nodded. All crew had signed agreements prohibiting romantic entanglements during the mission to prevent complications in the closed environment of the ship. Whatever happens up there, Olivia continued, whatever we find, I need to know if you meant what you said all those years ago, or if it was just a child's fancy. Will took a deep breath. For 15 years, he had carried the memory of that promise like a talisman. Through college and graduate school, through brief relationships that never felt quite right, the memory of Olivia had remained. I meant it, he said simply. I've always meant it. But I also understand the mission comes first. Relief and something else, something warm and hopeful shone in Olivia's eyes. The mission comes first, she agreed. But after, Will promised. We have all the time in the world. They sealed this new promise not with a kiss, but with clasped hands under the watchful stars, the same stars that had witnessed their childhood vow and would soon guide their journey into the unknown. The next morning, the crew of the USS Horizon boarded the ship that would carry them to humanity's first meeting with an alien civilization. As they strapped into their launch positions, Will caught Olivia's eye across the bridge. She touched her star pendant briefly, and he nodded in understanding. Whatever waited for them among the stars, they would face it together. The launch of the USS Horizon was perfect. As Earth shrank to a blue dot behind them, the crew settled into their roles for the 6-month journey to the meeting point with the alien vessels. Life aboard the ship fell into a steady routine. The crew worked in shifts, monitoring systems, conducting research, and preparing for first contact. During their off hours, they exercised in the small gym, ate together in the common area, or retreated to their private quarters for rest. Will and Olivia maintained a professional relationship during work hours. They were careful to treat each other the same as any other crew member. But during meal times or free periods, they often found themselves sitting together, talking about everything except their feelings for each other. 3 months into the journey, Captain Catherine Ellis called the crew together for an important announcement. A tall, serious woman with 20 years of military service, Ellis commanded deep respect from everyone aboard. "We've received new data from Earth," she announced. "Our long-range sensors have captured clearer images of the alien fleet." She activated the holographic display in the center of the room. It showed dozens of crystalline vessels arranged in a beautiful, geometric pattern. The ships glowed with an inner light that shifted through colors in slow, rhythmic pulses. "They're beautiful," Olivia whispered. "And enormous," added Chief Engineer Sam Davis. "Based on these readings, the smallest ship in their fleet is bigger than our largest aircraft carrier." Captain Ellis nodded grimly, "which is why our mission parameters have been updated. Earth is concerned about the size and technology level of this fleet. If these visitors have hostile intentions, humanity could be in serious danger." A heavy silence fell over the room. What had begun as a scientific mission now carried the weight of planetary security. "Dr. Bennett," Ellis continued, turning to Olivia, "Earth Command wants you to prioritize defensive communication strategies. We need to be prepared to negotiate from a position of vulnerability." Olivia nodded, though Will could see worry in her eyes. "Dr. Carter," Ellis said, "you'll work with Chief Davis to ensure our engines are ready for rapid acceleration if we need to retreat quickly." Over the next few weeks, the mood aboard the Horizon grew tense. The crew trained for emergency scenarios and prepared contingency plans. Everyone felt the growing pressure as they drew closer to the rendezvous point. One evening, Will found Olivia alone in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. Her face looked pale and drawn from too many. "Al was working without enough rest. You should get some sleep," he said gently. Olivia shook her head. "I can't. Every time I close my eyes, I see those ships and wonder if we're flying toward our doom." Will sat beside her, careful to maintain a respectful distance. "What does your research tell you? Are they likely to be hostile?" "That's just it," Olivia sighed, frustration clear in her voice. "There's no way to know. The signal patterns suggest a complex language, possibly indicating a peaceful, cooperative society. But history is full of advanced civilizations that still waged war." They sat in silence for a moment before Olivia spoke again, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm scared, Will." Without thinking, Will reached for her hand. It was the first time they had touched since boarding the ship. "I am too." "But remember what my dad said about fear?" Olivia squeezed his hand. "It means the mission is worth the risk." "Exactly," Will said. "And no matter what happens, we're facing it together. Just like we promised." Captain Ellis's voice suddenly came over the ship's communication system. "All crew to stations. We are receiving a new transmission from the alien fleet." Will and Olivia quickly separated and hurried to the bridge. The rest of the crew was already gathered there when they arrived. "Play the transmission," Ellis ordered. A series of musical tones filled the room, rising and falling in complex patterns. Lights pulsed on the communication console in sync with the sounds. Olivia immediately went to her station, fingers flying over the controls as she fed the new data into her translation. Algorithms. After several minutes of intense work, she looked up, her face filled with wonder. "It's a greeting," she said. "And instructions. They're telling us exactly where to meet them." The coordinates matched the rendezvous point we were already heading toward. "So they knew we were coming all along," Ellis said thoughtfully. "There's more," Olivia continued. "The language structure suggests they call themselves the Luminae, and based on certain repeating patterns, I believe they've been observing Earth for some time." The final 3 months of their journey passed in a flurry of preparation. Olivia's team made remarkable progress with the translation matrix, while Will worked with engineering to ensure the ship was operating at peak efficiency. As they neared the rendezvous point, Captain Ellis called all crew members together for a final briefing. "We are now 12 hours from first contact," she said. "Each of you knows your duty. We represent not just our countries, but all of humanity. This is the most important mission any human has ever undertaken. She looked at each crew member in turn, her gaze lingering slightly longer on Will and Olivia. I've noticed certain attachments forming among crew members. While I understand the human need for connection, especially in stressful situations, I must remind you all that personal relationships cannot interfere with mission objectives. Will felt his face grow warm. Had they been so obvious? After the meeting, Ellis asked Will to stay behind. When they were alone, her professional demeanor softened slightly. Dr. Carter, you're a vital member of this crew. Your navigation skills and engine expertise are irreplaceable. Thank you, Captain, Will said, uncertain where this was leading. Ellis sighed. I'm speaking to you now not as your captain, but as someone who has worked alongside you for 3 years. I've come to respect you deeply, both professionally and personally. Will felt suddenly uncomfortable as Ellis took a step closer. Catherine, he said carefully, using her first name for the first time. I'm not sure I've developed feelings for you, Will, she said directly. I believe we could have a future together after this mission. I wanted you to know before we face whatever waits for us tomorrow. Will was stunned. He had always seen Ellis as a mentor and commander, never considering that she might view him differently. I'm honored, he said truthfully, but I need to be honest with you. My heart belongs to someone else. It has since I was a child. Ellis's expression hardened as understanding dawned. Dr. Bennett. Will nodded. I see, Ellis said, her professional mask sliding back into place. That will be all, Dr. Carter. As Will left the captain's quarters, he felt a mixture of guilt and relief. The last thing he wanted was to hurt Ellis, whom he genuinely respected. But he couldn't lie about his feelings, especially not now. On the eve of humanity's greatest challenge, when Will entered the common area, he found several crew members huddled around a table, speaking in low voices. They fell silent when they noticed him. What's going on? He asked. Sam Davis glanced around nervously before responding. Some of us are concerned about tomorrow. These aliens, the Luminae, what if they're setting a trap? What if this whole thing is a setup to capture our ship or worse? Will looked at the worried faces around him. Fear was spreading through the crew like a virus. We've come too far to turn back now, he said firmly. Tomorrow we make history. Let's at least wait to see what the Luminae actually want before we assume the worst. As the hours ticked down to their arrival at the rendezvous point, Will found himself unable to sleep. He lay in his bunk, thinking about all that had led him to this moment, from a childhood fascination with the stars, to a promise made to a little girl with pigtails, to the edge of an encounter that would change humanity forever, and through it all, like a silver thread connecting past to present, was Olivia. The moment of first contact arrived with a silent majesty that took everyone's breath away. The USS Horizon slowed as it approached the rendezvous point, and there, waiting in the darkness of space, was the Luminae fleet. Dozens of crystalline vessels hung in perfect formation, each one glowing with inner light that shifted through the spectrum in slow, hypnotic pulses. The largest ship, positioned at the center of the formation, was shaped like a perfect dodecahedron, with each face etched in patterns that seemed to move and change as they watched. All stop, Captain Ellis ordered, her voice steady despite the extraordinary sight before them. Dr. Bennett, are we receiving any transmissions? Olivia's fingers moved across her console. Yes, Captain. Multiple signals on various frequencies. The translation matrix is processing them now. We'll monitor the navigation systems, keeping the Horizon at a safe distance while ensuring they maintain their position. His heart raced with a mixture of awe and apprehension. Translation complete, Olivia announced after several tense minutes. They single quotes welcoming us. She activated the main speakers and a melodic voice filled the bridge. People of Earth, we greet you as fellow travelers among the stars. We are the Luminae, watchers and guardians of this sector of the galaxy. We have observed your world for many cycles, waiting for the moment when you would reach beyond your own system to join the greater community of intelligent life. Captain Ellis stepped forward. This is Captain Catherine Ellis of the Earth vessel, USS Horizon. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship. There was a brief pause before the Lumine responded. Your journey has been noted with interest. Captain Ellis, we invite a small delegation from your vessel to board our central ship for direct communication. We understand this requires trust. We offer assurances of your safety, Ellis turned to her crew. Opinions? It could be a trap, Security Chief Alan Rivera warned. Once they have some of us, they could demand the surrender of our ship or worse. Or it could be exactly what they say, an invitation to talk, Olivia countered. Their language patterns don't suggest deception. In fact, they show remarkable straightforwardness. Ellis considered both perspectives. I'll lead the delegation myself, Dr. Bennett. Your linguistic skills are essential. Dr. Carter, as our navigation officer, I want you to come as well, in case we need to discuss travel capabilities. 2 security officers were added to the delegation, and they prepared to board the shuttle that would take them to the Lumine vessel. Before departing, Ellis pulled Will aside. Our personal discussion changes nothing, she said firmly. I am still your captain, and the mission comes first. I expect your full professionalism. Of course, Captain, Will replied. You have it. The shuttle journey was brief but tense. As they approached the massive central ship, a section of its crystalline surface seemed to dissolve, creating an opening for them to enter. Inside was a vast chamber with walls that glowed with the same shifting colors they had observed from outside. 5 tall figures waited for them. The Lumine were humanoid, but clearly alien, their bodies semi-transparent and filled with the same flowing light as their ships. They had no distinct facial features, yet somehow conveyed expression through the patterns of light that moved within them. Welcome, said the tallest figure, its voice matching the one they had heard on the ship. I am Cyril, speaker for the Lumine Council. We have waited many cycles for this meeting. Captain Ellis stepped forward and introduced each member of the Earth delegation. The Lumine listened with what seemed like great interest, their inner lights pulsing more rapidly when Olivia and Will were introduced. You too, Cyril said, focusing on them. Your connection resonates at a frequency we rarely detect in your species. It spans time in an unusual pattern. Will and Olivia exchanged surprised glances. What do you mean? Olivia asked. Your life. Energies are entangled, another Lumine explained. We perceive such things clearly. It is part of what drew our attention to your vessel among the many possibilities. Before they could explore this strange observation further, Cyril moved the conversation to more formal matters. The Lumine explained that they were part of a vast alliance of civilizations that shared knowledge and resources throughout this sector of the galaxy. They had been monitoring Earth's development, waiting until humans reached a certain technological threshold before making contact. Now we must determine if your species is ready to join our alliance, Cyril said. This requires a test, Captain Ellis stiffened. What kind of test? One of connection, Cyril explained. Each new species must demonstrate their capacity for true unity, the ability to form bonds that transcend individual consciousness. This quality is essential for harmony within the alliance. The Lumine described a ritual called the joining, process where 2 beings would allow their consciousness to be temporarily linked, sharing memories, thoughts, and feelings completely. If successful, Earth would be welcomed into the alliance and given access to knowledge that would advance human civilization by centuries. And if we fail, Ellis asked, your world would be considered still developing. We would withdraw and return in another century. Cyril replied. The Earth delegation requested time to discuss the proposal privately. Back on the shuttle, a heated debate ensued. It's too risky, Rivera argued. We don't know what this joining really does. It could be a way to extract information or even take control of whoever participates. I disagree, Olivia said. Everything about their communication suggests honesty. This is exactly the kind of peaceful contact we hoped for. Who would even volunteer for such a thing? Ellis asked, looking around at her crew. Will and Olivia's eyes met across the shuttle. We would, Will said quietly. Together, Ellis's expression hardened. Absolutely not. It's too dangerous, and you're both essential crew members. But Captain, Olivia pressed, they specifically noted our connection. Maybe that's important for the success of this ritual. The Luminae themselves said our energies are entangled, Will added. Whatever that means, it suggests we might have the best chance of passing their test. After much discussion, Ellis reluctantly agreed to present Will and Olivia as Earth's volunteers. When they returned to the Luminae ship and made their offer, Cyril's light patterns brightened visibly. Yes, the alien said. Your choice is wise. The bond we detected between you will serve well in the joining. Will and Olivia were led to a circular chamber at the heart of the ship. The walls here pulsed with even more vibrant colors, and in the center stood a crystalline platform that glowed with brilliant white light. Before you proceed, Cyril said, you must understand that this ritual will reveal everything between you, every memory, every thought, every feeling. There can be no secrets in the joining. Will looked at Olivia, seeing both fear and determination in her eyes. I'm ready if you are, he said softly. Olivia nodded. Together, like we promised, they stepped onto the platform hand in hand. As they did, the light beneath them intensified, flowing up around their bodies like water rising from a spring. Will felt a strange warmth spread through him. And then he was Olivia, 6 years old, watching a boy through her window as he set up a telescope in his backyard. He was himself at 8. Promising to marry a girl with pigtails under a meteor shower. He was Olivia at 13. Crying herself to sleep after another move to another new town. Clutching a silver star pendant. He was himself at 18. Searching social media late at night for any trace of Olivia Bennett. Every memory, every emotion, every secret hope and fear, they flowed between them like water finding its level, until Will could no longer tell where his consciousness ended and Olivia's began, and through it all, one truth shone brighter than any star they had ever observed together. They had never stopped loving each other. Not through all the years and distances that had separated them. The light around them suddenly expanded, filling the entire chamber with a brilliant glow that caused even the Luminae to step back in apparent surprise. When it finally faded, Will and Olivia stood on the platform, still holding hands, tears streaming down their faces. Extraordinary, Cyril whispered. In all our centuries of conducting the joining, we have never witnessed such a complete union. Your species has not only passed our test, you have exceeded our highest expectations. Captain Ellis and the other Earth delegates, who had been watching from the edge of the chamber, approached with expressions of relief and wonder. What happens now? Ellis asked the Luminae. Now, Cyril replied, Earth joins the Alliance as a full member. And these two, the alien gestured to Will and Olivia, will serve as the first ambassadors between our peoples, if they are willing. The joining has changed them in ways that will benefit both our civilizations. In the days that followed, the Luminae shared vast amounts of knowledge with the crew of the Horizon. Plans were made for a formal delegation from Earth to meet with the full Alliance Council, and Will and Olivia, forever changed by their experience, discovered they could still sense each other's thoughts and feelings. Permanent reminder of their shared consciousness. 1 month later, as the Horizon prepared for its return journey to Earth, Captain Ellis gathered the crew for a special announcement. Before we depart, she said, Dr. Carter and Dr. Bennett have requested a small ceremony. As captain,